Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of Conley Talks. I've been missing for a couple weeks. I've been moving house, changing cities, a lot going on in my business life, but I've got a great episode today. It's all about this shirt, Uriah Heep, one of my favorite bands in history. This episode is a redo, actually. It's an episode called How I Went to a Uriah Heep Show and Fell in Love with My Wife All Over Again. And we'll get to that in a minute, but first let's spend a few minutes talking about Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep they've been one of my favorite bands. I first saw them in 1976 in Dayton, Ohio. They were at the Hare Arena, and I was an impressionable young man of 15, and they really blew me away. It was Dave Byron, Mick Box, Gary Thane, Ken Hensley, and Lee Kerslake. Wow, what a combination of dynamic musicians. They all played, they all sang. They were a fantastic and vastly underrated band at the time. If you go back and look at the Uriah Heep catalog from the beginning right up to this day, it's amazing. 50 years of great music that they've brought to us. Uriah Heep, it was such a seminal experience for me the first time I saw them, because it was really the first time that I saw a band which had four guys singing harmony, and everybody's a great player. And Dave Byron was a front man who is so dynamic and so charismatic, and what an amazing voice and songwriter. And I have to mention Mick Box. Mick's responsible for me having this great t-shirt. Wow, Uriah Heep Live 1973. If you don't have that album, go get it. It's such a great moment in hard rock history. And Mick Box, an amazingly important guitar player in rock history, and somewhat underrated, because here's a guy who, wow, what a creative guy. The solos are perfect, the parts are insanely cool, always playing for the song, and always leading a band that, again, to this day has never let fans down. As a matter of fact, Uriah Heep is always on the road. They're getting ready to go back out right now, I believe, over in Europe. And they do like 53 countries a year, and if you have a chance, you want to go see them, because the band now is one of those, it's one of those rare birds where the band that is together now is just as dynamic, just as talented, and just as engaging as the band was in 1973, 1976, 1979, all throughout their history. They're now fronted by the amazing Bernie Shaw, who is just an amazing voice, and again, a remarkably charismatic frontman. Such a joy to watch. Mick is still bringing it on the guitar, and the wall of Marshalls behind him, and he's such a joy to watch as he does his magical ministrations. If there was a wizard in the equation in Uriah Heep, I think it was probably Mick Box. On the drums now you have Russell Gilbrook, who I think is one of my certainly favorite drummers in the world, and I think he's one of the best hard rock drummers on the planet. Such a cool guy and such an engaging guy to watch. And then you have Phil Luzano on keyboards, who creates such an amazing space with his playing, and he sings a lot. On bass now we have Davey Rimmer, who is, whoa, he's the fourth in line. First there was Gary Thane, who was an amazing bass player, and he was followed by a guy I considered a friend and a huge influence as a musician, John Wetton, who had such a great career with King Crimson, Uriah Heep, Asia, solo career. He's passed on now, but such a talented guy. He was followed in the band by another remarkable bass player, Trev Boulder, who of course came from David Bowie's Spiders from Mars, and Trevor was in the band 30 years, and he was taken down by cancer himself. I last saw the band, and it was such a joy because I hadn't seen Trevor Bolder with the band since, I think 1978, I believe, when John Lawton was fronting the band. And it was funny because the first few times I saw Uriah Heep, I got such an education as a musician. And it rotated around the bass players because with each new bass player, Gary Thane was, a very walking bass line kind of player, almost jazzy in his approach, but hard rocking as hell. And the next time I saw them, I was quite surprised because a new bass player, and here was a huge lesson that I learned about musicians, bands, and music. John Wetton came in, and he subtly changed the entire sound of the band. He was a different kind of bass player. He had a unique voice that he added to their 3 and 4 part harmonies in every song, and it really, really made an impression on my brain because I was like, and it was the first time I'd ever seen that. Wow, one guy can make a difference in a band and actually change the dynamic and the sound a little bit, but you still have the same basic package that you loved. Next time I see the band, Trevor Bolder's in the band. And wow, what a remarkable bass player. You should, if you're at all interested in how the bass works in music and what bass players bring to bands, check out Trevor Bolder. There's hundreds of Uriah Heep videos on YouTube, and most of them are a joy to watch. Great songs, great performances, and Trevor Bolder brought so much to the mix. The last time I saw the band, and what I want to talk about today, was a few years ago. I think it was 2011. I saw the band at Dayton, Ohio at an outside show. And it was one of those things where somebody said, "Hey, you want to go see Uriah Heep?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course I do." And I went, and I didn't know quite what to expect because I hadn't seen the band in over 20 years. And much to my pleasure, they hadn't lost a step. They're an amazing live band. The new songs fit in perfectly with the old, and so often it's a crapshoot when you see a classic band with a new lineup. Mick Box is now the only original member of Uriah Heep, but to his everlasting credit, he's much like, say, Andy Powell from Wishbone Ash. Wishbone Ash is still, they're on their 50th anniversary tour now, and he still has such a strong lineup together and brings such an incredible set of music. Well, Uriah Heep, they came busting out in Dayton, Ohio that night, and I was just completely blown away. It was just like, wow, this is a return to 1976 for me, and I'm 15 again, or 16, whatever I was. And I was thrilled, and I'm sitting there, and they come out with the opener, and I'm just so enthralled, and I'm so pleased, and I'm pumping my arm in the air, and I'm rocking out, and you know how you do at rock shows. You're looking around to see how everybody else is doing, and I'll be damned. I look over, and there, we weren't together at the time. Me and my wife, we had a split up, and there she was. It was the first time I had seen her in 6 years, and she's up, a little bit in the audience. So what a thrill this was. Wow, here's the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. I get to look at her, and as I turn my head just like 2-3 degrees, then I get to see one of my favorite bands of history, and they're bringing it. It's just like the crowd is so into it. What a magical moment for me. It's like, I wrote a great review of the show, and I'll put that in the comments of when I post this. It was a great show. I had never seen, the dynamicism and the power of Russell Gilbrook's drums. At the time, Trev Bolder was still in the band, and he was such an awesome musician. Phil Luzon, who I'd never seen before. And then there's Mick Box. And Mick Box, I call him the Wizard, Demons and Wizard. He's the Wizard, such a magical guy because he gets on stage and he creates magic. You know, they have fans around the world. He's kept this juggernaut going for 5 decades, and that's not easy to do. And he never fails to do it without a huge, huge smile, without a very humble demeanor, and some of the most melodic music to ever come out of any guitar player in the realm of hard rock. Mick Box is so underrated, and you know, his solos are compositions within themselves. I can sing you 5 of them now, and his rhythm guitar playing and his tone, so unique and identifiable. You know, it's just like, wow, this is a hallmark in heavy metal history and hard rock history, whatever you want to call it, however you want to classify the band. Uriah Heep has been a strong contender for 5 decades, and they're still going strong. And, you know, I never see the name and don't smile because, you know, so many great memories, including seeing and falling in love with my wife all over again after 6 years of being separated, and we're together now, and you know, we have a kid, and we've been through all we've been through, and our best times are still to come. And you know, Uriah Heep's always been there right along for the ride, you know, and it's one of my most dependable companions in my world of music. I'm so grateful to what they've brought to me, what they've brought to so many fans over the years. You know, you look at them on stage, and it's such a joy to watch because they're having a great time. They're having a blast. They're looking at each other. They're smiling. They're laughing. They're talking to each other. They're engaging the audience. This is precisely what a live rock and roll performance is supposed to be. Outstanding in every sense. Yeah, what a wonder, what a force of nature this band has been forever. And get it. Yeah, I got the t-shirt. I sport it. I'm trying to still put out the news. You know, tell Chuck Berry the news. Tell him about Uriah Heep because, you know, they're one of his fortunate sons, and they're still a great band to this moment. If you have any chance, go listen to their new album, which, whoa, Davey Rimmer has contributed to the writing majorly on this one. Bernie Shaw's in great voice. Again, Mick always brings it. Phil Russell. There's not a weak link. There's not anything. There's no lag in the performances, the songs, the production. It's amazing stuff. I implore you to go check it out because it's going to enrich your life just like it's enriched mine. Guys, Uriah Heep, thank you so very much for what you've brought to my musical life. I'll be doing it forever, you know, and I can't wait till the next time I see you guys. Get out there and see them. Get out there and support rock and roll. This is Tony Conley Talks. I'm going to bug out. Have a great, great weekend. Bless you all. Thank you all. I'll talk to you soon. Adios.